Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. 1 Samuel chapter 5. 1 Samuel chapter 5, the whole chapter, verses 1 through 12. Message today is entitled Hot Potato. Pam, you must have read this. Hot potato. A pig ate his fill of acorns under an oak tree and then started to root around the tree. A crow remarked, "You should not do this. If you lay bare the roots, the tree will wither and die." "Let it die," said the pig. "Who cares as long as there's acorns?" You ever known anyone to act without regard to consequences? Or maybe they think they're above the law, that they can act or do whatever they want? As we reach chapter 5 of 1 Samuel, we will see what happens to a group of people who think that they can do whatever they want. The Philistines just won a tremendous victory over the children of Israel. And I bet they thought that they were pretty hot stuff. Not only did they win the battle, but they captured the Ark of the Covenant. What a trophy. Certainly this will have no bad consequences. Everything's just going to go just fine for these Philistines having captured the Ark of the Covenant. Who cares as long as there's acorns, right? God wants you to see the situation of the Philistines, because there's going to be some interesting things that happen as a result of them having the Ark of the Covenant. So God wants you to see the situation of the Philistines. There's three consequences of the Philistines' situation. The first consequence of the Philistines' situation, number 1, verses 1 through 5, foolishness and submission. The first consequence is foolishness and submission. Second consequence of the Philistine situation, verses 6 through 9, fever and sickness. From what I understand, a lot of that's going around these days. Third consequence of the Philistine situation, verses 10 through 12, futility and severity. So let's start to look at this. Verses 1 through 5, the foolishness and submission, the consequences of the Philistine situation, having captured the Ark of the Covenant. Then the Philistines took the Ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. When the Philistines took the Ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when the people of Ashdod arose early in the morning, there was Dagon fallen on its face to the earth before the Ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and set it in its place again. And when they arose early the next morning, there was Dagon fallen on its face to the ground before the Ark of the Lord. The head of Dagon and both the palms of its hands were broken off on the threshold. Only Dagon's torso was left of it. Therefore, neither the priests of Dagon nor any who came into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. So what's going on? These guys thought that they were going to, be kings around there. They just took out the children of Israel. How many people of them were killed in that previous battle? Tens of thousands. I mean, they whomped them. I mean, that was a good old country whooping they put on the children of Israel. And not only did they kill all of them, but then they captured the Ark of the Covenant. So they brought this thing back probably with their heads high. They were probably thinking that they were pretty hot stuff. And they brought the Ark of the Covenant. And where did they put it? They could have put it in City Square for everybody to see. They could have put it up on a pedestal somewhere. They could have placed it as a trophy somewhere. But where do they put the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord? They put it in Dagon's house. And what is Dagon? Does anybody know? That's their god. So when they won over the children of Israel, it was as a result of the influence of Dagon in the battle. Dagon gave them the victory, which is why they place the Ark of the Covenant before Dagon, as if to say, our God is better than your God because, obviously, we won. Now, how foolish is this submission? And exactly what is this going to prove? Now, I want you to remember Eli on the road. Remember, he was watching the battle, and he was all concerned about the Ark of the Covenant being taken away, and perhaps rightfully so. What was he worried about? Well, he's worried about it being taken away, that's true, but why would that be a bad thing? I think one of the things that we struggle with as people, one of the things that get in our way, is that somehow we believe that God needs help. Do you think that if the Ark of the Covenant is taken into the hands of the Philistines, do you think God can take care of himself? I sure hope you do. Eli wasn't so sure. He was worried that it was going to be taken away. Sometimes we get caught up in the fact that we think that we have to take care of God. We have to settle scores for God. We have to win arguments for God. We have to take care of God somehow. Remember, David even did this in 2 Samuel chapter 7. There's no temple for God at this point. I mean, that's in 2 Samuel. We're still in 1 Samuel. And David thinks that he has to take care of God. He's got to build him a temple. He's got to make him a nice dwelling place, because we tend to think that we have to take care of God. And what does God tell him? Put the brakes on, big guy. I can take care of myself. You remember that story back in 1 Samuel chapter 5 when they took the Ark of the Covenant and they put it in Dagon's house? I can take care of myself. A lot of us out there want to think that we have to take care of God. We have to explain God. People will come to us and they'll say, I don't believe in God for this reason. And we have to go, well, wait a second. Of course you can still believe in God with, do you think that God needs help? It's not up to us to win battles or be intellectually superior or smarter or somehow better equipped or anything like this. God is able to take care of himself just fine. Even if the Ark of the Covenant is brought into the house of Dagon, yeah, the Ark of the Covenant could go right into the belly of the beast and God is going to be okay. The only thing he really wants you to concern yourself with is just your faithfulness. I think Eli was really concerned about the Ark of the Covenant going into the hands of the Philistines because God needed help, and Eli was all concerned about it. And we need to not be so concerned about taking care of God. God is going to be just fine. The Philistines took the Ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon because they're trying to demonstrate their superiority over the God of the Israelites. Dagon is superior. A lot of people out there think that their God is superior to our God, or that their religion is superior to our religion, or their worldview is superior to our worldview, or their interpretation of the events of life are superior to our interpretation of the events of life, as if somehow it's a competition. It's not a competition, is it? There is no competition. God is God and God is right and everything else is wrong. I mean, I'm not sure what the competition is. I'm not sure what we have to prove or explain or somehow deal with. And I'll give you an example of this. For a long time in the book of Genesis, we all would think that creation was creation. It was a 7-day creation. The one-day evolutionists come along and think that it's millions and millions of years old. And we have to somehow, now, bring these two together. And so we come up with these jumping jacks and gymnastics and contort our understanding of the Bible to somehow try to fit in. Guys, you don't have to defend anything. God made everything in 7 days, and that's just the end of it. I mean, what are you trying to defend? Why do you have to stick up for God? You don't have to do any gymnastics or contort yourself or your understanding or theology or the Bible to fit what anybody says. I don't care how many PhDs are behind their name. I don't care where they graduated school from. I don't care what experience they have. God is God. They are not. And only one of them's right. You don't have to defend anything. Now that might be one instance, one illustration, one example. But guys, we live in this postmodern world where people want to ram down your throat all kinds of nonsense that does not fit into the biblical worldview. You do not have to defend anything. God is able to take care of himself, even if the Ark of the Covenant is put into Dagon's house. He is able to take care of himself. What he wants to have done will happen. You do not have to take care of God. Now, you probably shouldn't be a pushover or anything. You probably should know your stuff, but we're not called to win arguments. We're not called to be better than or smarter than. We're not called to be more eloquent than. We're not called to any of this stuff. We're called to faithfulness. And let God do his job and you do yours. And they're two different jobs. The Ark of the Covenant can be brought into the house of Dagon, and we might go, eek! Look what they're doing. They're ruining it. There's a lot of that going on in our world right now. We got an election in about 6 months to kind of sort some of that stuff out, I think. Eek, I don't know. Is God going to be able to be God after this election? I think he's going to be just fine, guys. I think he's going to live. It doesn't matter how bad this world gets or who wins this election, okay? God is going to be just fine. God here in the house of Dagon is going to be just fine. It doesn't matter what's going on around you or how bad it looks or how bleak it seems or what you wanted to have happen or not. None of this really matters. God is able to take care of himself. He's going to be just fine. How do we know? And when the people of Ashdod arose early in the morning, there was Dagon fallen on its face. Are you like me and get a little chuckle out of this one? Like just a low-key little chuckle? You'd think that maybe nothing would happen. You'd think that God would just kind of bide his time till the Israelites can get the covenant back, okay, whatever. But no, that's not what happens. Dagon falls on his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And these people are so foolish. They think that they've got the market cornered on this stuff. They have the Ark of the Covenant of the children of Israel, their perhaps most prized possession. They've got it. Israelites don't. This is going to be great. These guys are so foolish. They just don't know who they're messing with, do they? And when these people out in our world want to try to get up in our business and tell us how things actually should be because they're so much smarter than us, because they've got a PhD in earth science and we don't, so therefore we don't truly understand how the world could have been created or whatever. Yeah, don't worry about that. God can make Dagon fall on his face and look like the real dummy. Children of Israel didn't have to do anything. They didn't even know this was going on. Just sit back and let God be God. Be still and just let God be God. Stop trying to do his job for him. You're not going to do it any better than him. Just let God be God. Just chill. Just vibe for a little bit. That's what the kids say these days. Just vibe. Used to be like chill or relax and stuff. Now it's vibe. I'm learning. So they decided that they're going to put Dagon back up. They think that maybe something happened. Maybe a mouse got in there. I don't know what their explanation could have possibly been for why Dagon fell. And okay, but you know what? Let's just set it back up. Let's just set it back up. Everything's going to be fine. But boy, these people are really foolish, though, thinking that they can pull the wool over on the eyes of the children of Israel, on God himself. How foolish are they in their submission, thinking that the Ark of the Covenant is going to be submissive to Dagon? How foolish is this? And by the way, anybody that thinks that any of these worldviews that are inconsistent with the Bible, if you think that you're going to win this one day, also just as foolish. And guys, there's plenty of them out there. Evolution might be one that everybody can kind of gravitate to. But guys, in our world right now are so many unbiblical viewpoints. It's scary. And a lot of them are on the ballot in November. It's scary how unbiblical these things are. And we think that we've got to champion this stuff. And maybe we should, but I think God can take care of things. I think Dagon will fall just fine without your help. Let God be God. He can do abundantly beyond anything you could even ask or think anyway. He's fine. Next year, God's still going to be on the throne. I don't care who wins this election. It could be me. How terrifying would that be? But man, God would still be on the throne. He would still be ruling and reigning, all right? But what happens when they put him back up? So then they arose early the next morning, and there was Dagon fallen on its face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. This time, the head of Dagon and both the palms of its hands were broken off on the threshold. Wow. He's serious. He means business. God is God. God can take care of himself. It doesn't matter how foolish or dumb or stupid these Philistines are, thinking they've got one pulled over on the Israelites. God is able to take care of himself. So now neither the priests of Dagon nor anyone who comes into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod to this day. They're starting to get a little bit like, oh boy, maybe we're messing with the wrong thing. Maybe we're messing with the wrong person. This isn't going like we thought it was going to go. But the consequences for the Philistines continue in what will now be a very hot potato situation. Verses 6 through 9. But the hand of the Lord was heavy on the people of Ashdod, and he ravaged them and struck them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territory. And when the men of Ashdod saw how it was, they said, the ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, for his hand is harsh towards us, and Dagon, our God. Therefore they sent and gathered to themselves all the lords of the Philistines and said, what shall we do with the ark of Israel? And they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried away to Gath. So they carried the ark of God of Israel away. And so it was, after they had carried it away, that the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. And he struck the men of the city, both small and great, and tumors broke out on them. Fever and sickness now follow them. They think that if they just hold on to this, they're doing themselves a favor? You would think that one of the first things that should come into their mind is maybe we should give it back. Maybe we should give it back to them. Maybe by having it, this isn't a good thing. Even in their twisted, mind, they could have said, well, if we give it back, maybe this will be better for us. But heaven forbid they give it back, because they're like children over there, I guess, or something. So they're going to play hot potato with this thing. They're going to take it, decide to give it to Gath. And then as we continue reading, Gath is going to give it to somebody else because they don't want to have this problem anymore. The fever and the sickness that gets ravaged over the people of Ashdod is incredible. Why? Because God is able to take care of himself. God is able to do whatever he wants. We tend to think that we have to take care of things. If we just had the Ark of the Covenant, everything would be fine. If we just had... No. God is able to take care of himself, even when things are not the way we want them to be, even when things don't go the way we want them to go, even when it looks like we're not in control. And oh boy, that's going to step on some toes probably, because we kind of like to be in control. I like knowing that the Ark of the Covenant is in my back room. I like knowing where it's at because I want to be in control of it. Because if I'm not in control of it, then that means, well, who knows what that's going to mean. I don't want that. And definitely don't want the Philistine dogs to have it. Why? You see what happens when they have it? The hand of the Lord was heavy. He didn't just afflict a couple of people just wondering how they're going to react. He didn't just afflict a couple of people just hoping for the best. The hand of the Lord was heavy. In other words, he's taking care of business. He's going to make it so that these people know exactly why they're getting sick. Where are these tumors coming from? They know exactly what's going on. It's because they have the Ark of the Covenant in their possession, and they know they're not supposed to have it. And now they're getting these tumors, this fever, this sickness is entering into their cities. But of course, they're still foolish. They're not going to give it back. They're going to continue to hold on to it. He ravages them. You see these words here? It's heavy. He's ravaging. He struck them with tumors, Ashdod and its territory. Nobody's safe. So when the men of Ashdod saw how it was, they said, the Ark of God must not remain with us. His hand is too harsh towards us, and Dagon our God. That's an interesting statement, because at first they were under the impression that the reason that they won the battle was because of how great and powerful Dagon was over the God of Israel. And now they're coming to terms with the idea that maybe the reason that they're experiencing this other stuff is because Dagon's not protecting them anymore, or that the God of the Israelites is stronger. Well, that's kind of a interesting leap for them. So they sent and gathered to themselves all the lords of the Philistines and said, what should we do with this thing? Give it back? Oh, we're not going to do that. No. Fired. Well, they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried away to Gath. Guys, how's that going to go? Probably not very good. But that's what they're going to do. They carry the Ark of God of Israel away. They take it off to Gath. So it was, after they carried it away, that the hand of the Lord was against that city. Great destruction. He struck the men of that city, both small and great, and tumors broke out on them. Fever and sickness follow wherever this Ark of the Covenant is going to go, because God is able to take care of himself. God doesn't need our help. God doesn't need us to defend him. He is able to take care of every situation, every circumstance that comes along, even without our interference. Sometimes I wonder if in our efforts we sometimes make things worse. And God is demonstrating here with the ark in the hands of the Philistines that if you just let him do his work and be God, he can take care of anything. Some of me wonders if this is some of the point of why did God allow the Ark of the Covenant? Because he could have prevented the Ark of the Covenant from being taken, I'm guessing. He probably could have done that. So why would he allow the Ark to be captured? That seems kind of dumb, doesn't it? Or is he trying to demonstrate something else? Is he trying to get us to understand that he can perform things, whether they're miracles or wonders, whether it's defense or protection. He can do stuff just fine without us. So when battles come along, we don't have to have the sharpest swords. We don't have to have the most bows. We don't have to have the fastest horses. You know what we need to have? Faith. Like Jehoshaphat. We need to have our eyes on him. It doesn't matter if the enemy's coming from all sides. It doesn't matter how many of them there are. Just put your eyes on him and you'll be just fine. He can take care of all of these details. He doesn't need our interference. In fact, sometimes if we get involved, we just are going to horse it up. You know anybody like that? They come over to help you and you're like, I'm good. I don't need your help. I can make supper just fine. Thank you. Why don't you go watch the kids? You got it, babe. Sometimes we're just nothing but we just horse things up sometimes. And God wants us to see that he can take care of it. This situation that the Philistines find themselves in allows us to see that he can take care of even the Ark of the Covenant in the hands of the enemy. His ability is greater than yours and mine and ours put together. It's amazing what he's able to do. He's going to cause fever and sickness as a consequence. He's going to allow foolishness and submission as a consequence. These poor Philistines that he's using to demonstrate this very lesson for us today as they are now playing hot potato with the Ark of the Covenant. But there's also futility with severity. Starting in verse 10. Therefore, they sent the Ark of God to Ekron. So it was, as the Ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, They have brought the Ark of the God of Israel to us to kill us and our people. So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, Send away the Ark of the God of Israel, and let it go back to its own place, so that it does not kill us and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God was very heavy here. And the men who did not die were stricken with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Well, these people are finally getting it. It took going from Ashdod to Gath and now to Ekron for them to finally put the pieces of the puzzle together. If they would just get rid of this thing, if they just give it back, I wonder if that yes. They're finally putting it together. And you feel a sense of relief for them. And as we look out into our world and we see a world out there that's dead and dying and making all kinds of really dumb decisions and mistakes, and they're doing things that clearly do not benefit themselves or society or our culture or anything really for that matter. And you just want to say, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And when somebody goes, maybe you're right, maybe I shouldn't be so angry at this person, and all of a sudden there's a peace that's on them. And you're like, well, finally. Took you long enough to figure that one out. They're finally getting it. The people of Ekron finally getting it. You know, if you just give this thing back. It's a little too late though, isn't it? There's been a lot of damage done. There's been a lot of nonsense that's been going on. The hand of the Lord has been heavy this whole time now in many different places. Dagon's been ruined. The people of Gath have been tarnished. The people of Ashdod have been under the heavy hand of God. There's tumors on great and small. And by the time the people of Ekron finally figure it out, the damage has kind of already been done. Kind of the story of my life, a day late and a dollar short. Don't end up like Ekron, a day late and a